is your very straight down the middle monster movie. Unknown evil that gets loosed on a bar in the middle of nowhere.
What would you compare your script to, like, in tone?
Evil Dead 2 was a remarkable influence because, you know what they had? They had like $6 in a high school gym. It was ingenuity, and I don't see that in anything these days.
I think in the first 20 pages they introduced 20 characters, speaking characters, and at least 8 beasts. And I think it's a poor choice given the budgets that we had. I frankly didn't think it was that good of a script either.
If you guys were directing the film, what would you say to whoever's going to come up with these creatures? What would you ask them to build?
What if Carrie Strug was hit by lightning? She stuck the last landing. It's when she stuck it, she was like, ah, and then she bit off Bella Caroli's head in a shocking moment, you know?
They're guys that grew up watching these kinds of movies, and it really shows in their writing.
And this was like a way to make something that's new, something that gets your attention and drives like a muscle car. And this was it. I mean, this is the type of thing where if you happen to catch the first minute at midnight, you're going to stay up until 5 in the morning if that's when it ends to watch it, because it's just a propulsive onslaught of velocity and ferocity, you know?
So what's the poster?
I sketched one out, actually.
Those guys spoke the Dimensions language. Like, this is the poster, we have the tagline, we have a trailer idea.
The last thing you see, the last thing you'll feel are teeth, and then feast. This sucker rocks. You know, I love it.
Dimension loved it. They were like, these are our kind of guys.
Once the writers were done, we sat down to talk about it.
Well, I still think Wildcard is far and away from all of them. I can see your eyes twitching.
It is a tiny bullseye. Like, if you're going after commerciality and sort of getting it, hitting it is small. And I just think twice now we've picked things that I would put in the tiny bullseye category.
Is there a mandate for this process? I mean, it's not purely about may the best script win.
It's definitely not that. Let me just say that
May the most
unequivocally.
commercial script win? Would that be the paradigm?
It's the what script can muster the enthusiasm of everyone who's involved in the process, and also at the studio, what film we feel we can make and market successfully.
I think that Hans Rubinstein is really creative and inventive and original and smart. It's funny. He can write comedy. I laughed my ass off. Once we started deliberating, I really was going to start trying to push for Hans, and then something went horribly awry.
There is enthusiasm at Dimension to make and market Feast, to put the company behind it.
I don't see people going to see Feast.
They're saying, our script is funny, it's campy, and it's like, yeah, Evil Dead 2 is funny and campy. Your script's not that funny and campy.
Feast is where we come out, you know what I mean? It's the movie that I think everybody can get behind at the studio.
The studio said, Feast is the movie we're prepared to make and market. Making cynically made, low-budget horror films for the purpose of making a small profit are not the reason that I got into Greenlight. I don't think it's why Ben did or Chris did either.
But it's like, do you believe in Feast because you can make it for a price and you can flip it for a bigger price? Or do you believe in Feast because you really think it's the best movie?
I think it's a crowd-pleasing movie. I think if you see a movie like Cabin Fever, any of these sort of lower-budget horror movies that come out in the last 2 years, I think this movie fits that bill. And with a studio like Dimension, you sort of have to readjust the kind of movie that you make.
That's not why we got involved with Project Greenlight, to make what you know, a B horror movie.
Just kind of stumble back into the Greenlight family and kind of see that this is where it had landed was shocking for me, you know, and infuriating, really.
There's a whole world there of low-budget horror. That's
I understand, and there's a lot of money there too. I just don't want it, man. I don't want to spend my time on that.
Feast is where we come out, you know what I mean? It's the movie that I think everybody can get behind at the studio and really make something out of it.
Nick, representing Dimension, and Bob Weinstein, who runs Dimension, felt that Feast was the only movie that Dimension could get behind.
The most miserable people I've ever met in my life in this business are the people who have made movies just because they think they're going to be financially successful, and then they're not, and all they have to show for it is like a vacuum of 6 months of their life.
Matt thought that we were compromising the artistic integrity of Project Greenlight by picking Feast. You know, I really don't agree. I think that Feast gave us our greatest chance for financial success, and that's really what Project Greenlight needs this year. Maybe I'm the sellout, but I got a lot better feeling about, you know, sort of the
mainstream, mass audience, attractive people stuck with some monsters than I do Wild Card or Hans.
I've never done a movie based on fucking marketing materials, man.
No, I know you.
You know what I mean?
But at least we're going into it with an idea of how to sell the movie.
An idea of how to sell a movie that all of us admit at the end of the day, it's just kind of a goofy thing that we don't.
Eli likes it, Nick likes it, Andrew likes it, and Bob likes it. So there's people who like it. Right? There's people who...
Incidentally, all representing the studio that thinks that that's the one they can make the most money off.
I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to make a movie that makes money as long as it's good.
But what do you say to the reporters that come to us every year and go, yeah, but your movie's failed, right? They suck. Greenlight really doesn't work. Greenlight does work. Greenlight can work.
500 movies a year get made and most of them fail, you know? I mean, that's the movie business. It's a tough fucking racket,
My
man.
God, if you can't take risks with Project Greenlight,
Then where do you do it? Now, here's a question for you, Wes. Do you want to be produced?
Associated with it?
Well, yeah.
I mean, that is a problem. I certainly would probably have to work a lot harder to make it something I could stomach.
Am I the only guy who likes Sonic Boom?
No, I think it's the best choice by far.
All three of those writers showed merit in the room, but if you want to talk about a movie that has, the potential to be a hit, Feast is where we come out.
You're like sitting 2 seats away from the master of horror who is telling you it sucks.
But I'm just telling you, I just respectfully disagree.
There's a strong sense that it's kind of a fait accompli, right? I mean, we were active all the way up to this point, and now the reality sets in of what a studio put money into, and it seems that's this one.
Done deal?
There it is.
All right.
Basically, we were helpless. These guys walk in with this kind of dimension, company line, which is, all right, this is the movie, and no matter how much you beat your head against the wall, nothing that was going to occur in that room was going to change what was happening.
At least the documentary will be accurate to the world of Hollywood. Everybody had something they wanted to do, and the studio did their thing, and that was that.